Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here with Jason Blaha Strength and Fitness, and today I want to chat with you guys and gals a little bit about ego lifting. But a quick reminder, if you guys will please click like down below, it'd be greatly appreciated. If you're not subscribed or following, please do so and drop me a comment down below. I'd appreciate it so much. Let's get over into this topic. And this is something I'm going to say that we notice with people who make it in the long game. All right, I'm 48. You guys see me literally right here doing rep work with 315 on a nice, clean, strict bench. I'm about to turn 49. Rep work with 500 on the deadlift, right? I'm still in the game, and I'm doing it relatively injury-free, right? Again, I've had some minor stuff with shoulder impingement in the past. But by and large, but again, notice I can still bench, largely injury-free. And I've noticed a trend in various lifters, the most hurt, the most beat up, versus those who are still going. And then we want to discuss the why. And I think Mike O'Hearn's a perfect example. I want people to note that with Mike. It's been noted that he's pretty much a vampire. You guys notice everything he does is really strict. Yet he's still crazy jacked and at an extreme level of strength in his 50s. I'm going to make a note and say, hey, you think that's coincidence? I don't think that that's coincidence. And you take the guys who've done lots of ego lifting, how many of them are completely out of the game by 50, beat up, banged up? And that's the other point I would make. You can take guys like that, and if anyone thinks ego lifting is going to make you bigger, if you think that ego lifting is somehow a key, right, cheating on the weights is really a key to gaining muscle or offers some benefit, then why is he so jacked still? I would almost use that as the example of, you don't have any proof, and I don't care what your anecdotes are. People will say, okay, but this pro bodybuilder or that person, they did lots of really loose form and ego lifting and they got jacked. Okay, fair. That's anecdote. Then if that's true that was the key, then the guys who train strict should never be jacked, right? If there was an advantage to it, the guys who train really strict probably wouldn't be jacked. Yet there they are. But what we do see is less injuries, right? And that's something I'm trying to do more and more of myself, is focus on control. I don't even do speed work anymore. I think speed work can be great, but we're also looking at, and I think if you're going to do speed work, that needs to be controlled too, right? I don't like the dive bombing the eccentrics on any of it. But again, control, control, control. It's not like you can't be strong and control a 600-pound deadlift, right? Of course you can. But why does this matter? It matters for injury. And the thing is, it's not like you get muscle growth from the other. In fact, it's found to be equal. And I want us to really think about that for a moment. You look at the real world, and then you look at what meta-analysis is found on loose versus strict form work. At least some studies that looked at it. All right, the studies match the real world. Surprisingly, what we see in the real world, we see replicated in the research. The research is largely determined muscle growth isn't different. In other words, really strict versus loose form, as long as the muscles you're trying to grow are the ones that take the brunt of the work and reach failure, guess what? Same muscle growth. You go look in the real world, look at various bodybuilders. Have we seen top-level bodybuilders with amazing physiques train both ways? Yes, we have. Okay, so if we go off the real world and the anecdote, right? In terms of gaining actual muscle, the research says that they're pretty much equal. Again, assuming the tension, like bouncing a bar off your chest on the bench is going to reduce chest tension. That's an example of, well, that may not be equal. I think it's the biggest reason you see guys who say the bench press didn't make their chest really big. Okay, that's a number one reason. Real world says they're the same. Also, the research says they're the same. And I mean the real world, because you see people who have competed against each other for the same spots in bodybuilding, both previous eras and today. Very strict versus loose. Cheating form, ego lifting. Right? And if people say, well, what about when you said big movements? Really big movements can cause carryover and cause a lot of other muscles to grow. Isn't that the same as ego lifting? Well, in theory, sure. But just do bigger movements. So instead of ego lifting, why don't you just squat and deadlift? Why don't you do standing barbell rows? Do the exercises that load the body then, if your goal is to get that secondary carryover to all these other body parts. Do those movements strict and you'll get everything that you're trying to get from the ego lifting. In theory, it's loading other muscles in the body. Right? You'll get the same effect. Why wouldn't you? Okay? See where we're going with that? No difference. Why does this matter? It's going to be injury though. Since there's no difference in the muscle growth, we look at your ego versus your injuries. And I think this is where it matters. All the guys who are long timers tend to be super strict. Super strict on everything. I don't think that's a coincidence. Okay? I don't think that's a coincidence at all. I think they're very correlated in this case. All right? Super strict versus ego. But I would go so far as to say then the ego lifting has no place in the long game. Okay? If everything's controlled all the time, you do movements from dead stops, from deep stretches, right? Not only are you going to ensure you're working the muscles you want to work, everything's going to get worked well, you're going to keep those injuries low. And I would say that still matters for gains. If you're getting hurt or you have inflammation or you're beat up from the ego lifting, that's not conducive to muscle growth. Okay? It's definitely not conducive to muscle growth. That's not going to get you where you want to go. All right? But if you don't want to hurt, and this point has to be made, and as a coach, this is something I deal with. I get clients who are older dudes, they'll still catch them wanting to bounce everything. They don't want to control stuff. And it's just like, guys, control the weight. Pause on your bench press. Don't use a lot of body English on stuff. You can row pretty strict like I was doing right there. And I'm not saying cheat rows can't be a great exercise. I mean, they can be. They really have an advantage over going strict, though. Same thing with the cheat curl. It really have an advantage over going strict? I don't think that it does. I don't think that it does at all. So why not train strict? Why not train with control? Okay? Let's play the long game here, guys. And that's even when we look at research, overuse. Overuse injuries are your big concern. But isn't that when the overuse breaks? Isn't that where the overuse accumulates? Hitting angles that really put the wrong stress on stuff too much. All right? That's where you're going to get that overuse. And we don't want that. And I want to be clear, and I'm training this way, I don't hurt. I get that a lot too. People are like, well, man, I mean, how do you even bench whatever, it's your age, it's not going to hurt your shoulders, stuff like, no. Get your form locked in. Get your technique dialed in. Get everything locked in. It doesn't hurt. It doesn't hurt at all. So again, people don't seem to grasp that. But benching is a perfect example. Guys ego lift on the bench because they put so much ego in it. And a lot of the chest presses, not just that, I see it with dumbbells. Dudes ego lift. Just train the solid range of motion. Train it with control. Okay? Maintain control of the weight, guys. You're going to stay in the game a lot longer. You'll still be able to do this when you're 70, 80 years old, in theory. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative. I'll talk to you guys and gals next time.